Hello everyone, and again another video on just how to prepare the FMS ahead of a flight. This won't be too much, but I just want to focus on the few main areas that we ought to know in order to prepare for a flight. So of course what we'll do is as follows. The first one will be how to create a flight plan, and then we will just talk about how to enter load sheet data into the relevant pages of the flight plan. And then the last one would be how to use the ETP and the PNR function of the performance page. Of course, there's also the fixed page. That way you can actually even draw a ring around the nav aid, the 25 nautical mile ring. Mostly people use that one initially, which keeps you aware that you are within the MSA of the airfield. So that one I explained to you on how to do that in the previous video on the usage of the FMS. So let's go ahead and just jump into the flight deck, where I will show you how a flight plan is entered into the FMS, and then the rest will be following. Right, so what you see on your screen is I will be programming a flight from Harare to Lilongwe, and what we use as our operational flight plan is the Lido system. So this is the Lido flight plan. I will not go into all the details on each and every aspect of it in this video. I may make something else defining every single numerical value and definitions, maybe in a separate video in the near future. But what I want to show you here is basically how you enter the whole routing into the flight plan. So what I'll do, I'll be pausing the presentation as I talk to you and explain to you what I'm doing. So here we go. The first thing you do is you go to the flight plan page, which is already there, and I'm going to enter the Harare airport identifier, which is Foxtrot Victor Romeo Golf. Once I do that, I press enter and then I accept it, which I'll do here. I accept it. When I do that, automatically the second line gets highlighted. So this is very important. When you start entering a route, you enter the departure airport ICAO identifier. In this case is FVRG, which is for Harare. Now, you want to follow what you call an airway. An airway is just like an imaginary highway or a road in the sky, okay, which has been designed for the aircraft's sophisticated navigation system to follow in what you call the LNAV mode and even the VNAV mode, okay. And you can get also all these airways on your upper level charts from Jeppesen and the like, and other publishers, where you have all these airways. Now, one very important thing that I'd like you to understand is that every airway to and from destination and departure starts from a nav aid and ends at a nav aid. So for instance, from Harare, all the airways which start from the departure phase start from the nav aid in Harare, which is the VOR, and the VOR is identified as Victor Hotel Alpha. Okay, that's very important to realize. Even if you see the manual charts, the higher level charts, you will see that every airway starts and terminates on a nav aid. Okay, so the first thing I'll do here after entering the airport identification is put the beacon, which is Victor Hotel Alpha. So I'm going to go on and type Victor Hotel Alpha. So there I go, that's typed. Enter and then accept. Once that's done, you can see it comes automatically in magenta, telling you that your first waypoint after departure will be Victor Hotel Alpha. Now from here we start to enter the airway and the waypoints that we'll be following along the route, and those are listed on your flight plan. So all you're doing is that you are looking at which airway you are going to be following, select that airway from the FMS database, enter it, then it's going to give you the waypoints on that airway which you want to follow. You enter it and so on and so forth until you reach towards the destination airfield. Okay, so let's see what happens here. So here we go. The first airway here you can see from Victor Hotel Alpha is Bravo 400, Bravo 400. So what we're going to do, we're going to go to the FMS and we're going to press list. Once we press list, we press airway, and once we press airway, we select from the list given the airway we want. In our case is Bravo 400, there it is, and that's number 3. So in this FMS you have options and you have numbers next to them, so you put the number of the option you want into the blank field. So in this case I'm going to type in 3, so I'll put 3 and I'll press enter. Now what it's going to do, it's going to give me a list of waypoints on that airway, on the Bravo 400 airway. So I need to know which waypoint am I going to if I'm going to follow the routing to Lilongwe, and it will be Kobod. So let's go ahead and look at the flight plan. If you see the flight plan, the waypoint after Bravo 400 is Kobod, so I'm going to select Kobod in the FMS. There it is, Kobod, and Kobod is number 3. I'll put number 3, I'll press enter, and here I go. And now from Kobod there should be another airway, if not, if yes, which will enter in the same fashion, similar manner, in the subsequent fields. So the next airway after Kobod is Uniform Lima 437, okay, and that's going to take us to a waypoint called Elepa. So I'll follow the same procedure. I'm going to go on the FMS, I'll press list, then airway, I'll select Upper Lima 437 number 4, enter, then I'm going to choose Elepa, which is number 2. Elepa is number 2, just confirming that it is Elepa. There it is, Elepa is number 2. So I type in 2, enter, and there we go, we have Elepa on the FMS. And the next airway was well, not an airway as such. Now it's just going to be from Elepa to the destination. So what we're trying to show here is that once you are exhausted with all the airways and their waypoints, the last thing you want to type in is going to be your destination airfield. Okay, so it will be airway, waypoint, and so on and so forth until you reach your destination identifier. Okay, so Lilongwe is Foxtrot Whiskey Kilo India. So I'm going to type that in, Foxtrot Whiskey Kilo India, and I'm going to accept it. There it is. Now, what I have to do here is I have to tell the FMS or the aircraft that I want to arrive into Lilongwe, because if I just leave it as FWKI, the aircraft is just going to draw a line straight to the airfield. It doesn't know which approach it is, and it doesn't even make sense. You are not a chopper where you're just going to land at the center of the airfield. So you've got to tell the aircraft, okay, I'm going to Lilongwe, or I'm going to a destination, which approach do I want to do, what runway do I want to use, and the like. So in order to do that, you press menu, while on the flight plan page, you press menu, and then you're going to select arrive, which is what I've done here. Now when you do that, it's going to give you a list of options. It's going to give you runways, and then it's going to give you some fields here to define what approach you want. So we're going to do an approach on runway 14. So I'm going to select number 1. So number 1, there I go, enter. Now here it's giving me a standard terminal arrival option. Which arrival am I going to use? In this case we won't use any star. It's just going to be to the RNAV waypoints for the approach that we're going to use. Normally that's what we do. In other approaches you normally select an arrival, standard terminal arrival routing, which also gives you the same sequence of waypoints and the like. So here we're going to skip the star field and we're going to go straight to the approach field. There we go. Now when we press the approach, we are given a list of approaches that can be done on the particular runway. We chose runway 14, so we have all these approaches that we can do. We can do a VOR, we can do an ILS, an RNAV, a VFR. This is just a programmed one. You see when it comes in blue like that, it means it's a self-programmed approach made by someone who was flying the maybe the approach in a different way. Okay, RNAV 32 and VOR 32 also there, which you don't need. So these are all for runway 32, these are all for runway 14. So between these three rather, sorry, VOR, ILS, and RNAV, we're going to select RNAV, which is number 3. So I'll type in number 3, and there it is. I type number 3, enter. Now it tells me from which initial fix do you want to commence your approach. And from our direction from Harare, we normally go to the waypoint called Utuga. If you look at the Lilongwe chart on your Jepsen database, you will see that waypoint. It's coming in from the southerly headings towards northerly headings. So we're going to go to Utuga. So I'm going to select number 3, and there it is, number 3, enter, and now I go to flight plan. Now when I go to flight plan, I just want to check and cross-check that all my waypoints are making sense and that the route is not distorted and it is making logical sense to me to fly the aircraft from A to B, meaning in this case from Harare to Lilongwe. So then I'm going to go to next, check that everything is okay. These no links here are not needed, so you can just delete them. So you select them and you press delete twice. So I'm going to do that, delete twice, and there it goes. So you can see from Elepa, which was our last waypoint on our airway, we're going to take the aircraft to Utuga and then to Utvag. Now Utvag is an initial approach fix. Initial fix, initial approach fix. Then from here, the aircraft is being told that you are going to do an RNAV 14 approach. An RNAV 14 approach from Utuga. Sorry, excuse me, RNAV approach from Utvag. That's his. This sequence is very important. You have to have the approach, the initial fix, and then the approach again. So let's see what's happening. If I go to the next page, there it is. We have Utvag. This is the final approach fix Utemi, which is going to take me down to the landing. Okay, very important of the runway. It is not a continuous descent as you can see here, but we can definitely program it to be a continuous descent, which I have shown in one of my other FMS videos, if you recall, when I was actually explaining a supernumerary student who was on the jump seat. Okay, but I should make a special video on this one, maybe again, just in the way it is, so you can see the sequences. Alright, so at Utvag we have to be at 5700. Utemi, we still maintain the same level, 5700, down to the landing. Okay, and that's it. That's the flight plan which has been entered. The other no links, we don't even need them, and there we are. So now we just we have seen everything is done. Then we look at our MFD to see how the pattern is looking like, and once everything is done, we press format. So we look at the routing. So now I'm going to go to flight plan and I'm going to press next until I see that this has given me a good drawing. So you can see from Elepa, the aircraft is going to fly to Utuga, then to Utvag, then to Utemi, down to the landing. So this routing makes sense. So it's very important to cross-check what you have entered in the FMS on a very, very nice pictorial representation, if I can put it that way, on the MFD by using the format function of the EFIS. And having done that, that's it. I can go back to the nav page, and there we go. That's how we program the FMS for flight plan. Next we'll now talk of entering the load sheet figures. Okay, so what you see here is just the load sheet that we normally use to enter our performance figures. So very quickly, I'm not going to go through the whole load sheet aspects. That might be again another video for another time as we continue sharing knowledge. So here basically it's very important just to know a couple of things, especially the loading the compartments and the passenger / cabin baggage. And these are two figures here that are very relevant. And then we have a total number of passengers of 62, which is also a very important figure because that's what we'll be entering. And then we have a dry operating weight of 18,643 for the aircraft that we are operating. So these figures, this one, the dry operating weight, the passenger number, and then the weights in the compartments and in the cabin are very crucial, which we then go to the FMS and enter in the fuel page of the FMS. So here we go, that's the fuel page of the FMS, and you can see that the basic weight is 18643, passenger numbers are 62. The aircraft is programmed to take a mass per passenger of 74 kilograms. That's what this means. And then we enter, as per the load sheet, the passenger and cabin baggage weight, the cargo weight. And once we enter these, the sum will definitely come up to the zero fuel weight, as you might be aware of from your performance lessons from your ATPL and the like. This figure here should be exactly equal to the load sheet figure. In that way you will rest assured that all these figures are correct. Okay, and then we jump onto the alternate and the holding fuel from the flight plan, which we just enter from the flight plan. Is very simple. We just take the alternate fuel and then the final reserve fuel, which you put here, and then it's going to give you a total reserve. Now here what we normally do is this: we select the line select key or next to this field here, and then we go on to, that's going to bring you, it's not being shown here for some reason because I did not program it in that way, because I just programmed the total fuel that I wanted to take for this sector. So I put it here well before the fueling was done, because I would know that after the fueling was done it should give me at least 4800. But after the fueling is done, you press the line select key on this particular field. It's going to give you tank 1 and tank 2. So you use your ED, the values on your engine display for the fuel for the separate tanks, and you enter them separately for tank 1 and tank 2. That's going to give you a fuel on board. Once you have done that, it's going to give you the gross weight, the takeoff weight, which obviously should be less than the maximum takeoff weight of the aircraft. So here it's giving us 28,918 around 919 kilograms. Okay, and once you've done with that, that's your performance figures which are entered. Normally for flight planning on the ground, you are interested in flight plan, the fuel page, the performance page, and often the nav page with a fix function, which I explained to you in the previous video. If you want to enter a particular fix like the nav aid of the airport or any other nav aid that you are asked to, or you require rather, okay, to track. Okay, so these four functions here, fuel, flight plan, performance, and nav, are normally what we normally use in conjunction obviously with the menus and the lists that I explained to you a while ago. So once you're done with that, and you can see 4800 is your total on board fuel, and then we click there. Oh, there we go. I now can tell you that what I'm going to put here, because the fueling was not done by the time I was preparing the flight plan, so I'm just going to put the figure of the block fuel that I wanted to take in tank 1. When I do that, I'm going to do 4800 and I press enter. Okay, and then the tank 2 I leave, that field I leave, because that's not going to be anything, because I've already given the full fuel to the FMS for its calculations. But as I said, that normally what you do after fueling is done, you press the line select key next to the fuel on board function. It's going to give you tank 1 and tank 2, and you enter the fuel figure separately for the both tanks which you just saw. Okay, that's very important. Just make sure you note that one. It's very important. Other than that, that's done. Then you press enter in nav, and then you good to go. That's how your flight plan is basically programmed. I hope this is making sense so far. And again, let's now move on to the ETP PNR function of the FMS, and that's going to take us towards the end. Okay, this last presentation is a very short one. I just want to show you how to use the ETP equi-time point and PNR point of no return functions in the FMS. It's just basically entering the nearby airfields in sequence, so that in case you want to return, or you want to continue, or you want to divert to an alternate, at least you know the distances. So it's a very simple one. All you do, you go to the performance function, performance page. So I'm going to press the performance page. There I go. And then I'm going to press the menu. Just remember that whenever you have a page and you have a small m next to it, it means that function has got a menu, meaning you can select some other sub menus in the main menu. Okay, so I'm going to go to menu. That's menu. Now it gives me an ETPPNR selection here, and I'm going to press the line select key next to the ETPPNR. Once I do that, what it gives me now is a list of lines where I can enter my airfields. So for instance, in this case, this is a very different routing. I was going from, I think, Lilongwe to Harare in this case. So I'll put the departure first. The sequence has no effect at all. You can put any sequence you want, but I personally prefer to put the departure. Well, I would like to correct myself on this one by saying that this was actually the same flight plan that we are using from Harare to Lilongwe. So for example, Harare, we put it at the end if you want. The next closest airfield is Lusaka, and then later is Chileka, and then it's Lilongwe. So you can clearly see the distances that you need to reach those destinations. When you are airborne, the DTO direct to time fields, they will actually tell you how long it will take you from where you are to where you want to go. If you want to go to Harare back, or you want to go to Lusaka or Chileka or Lilongwe, it's going to all highlight here, and it's going to also bring up the fuel on board that you might have on landing at these particular aerodromes. This is just for a situational awareness purpose. Okay, so it tells you quickly that, okay, I've got a problem, which is the closest airfield can I go to? Can I return? Can I continue? Or can I divert? And once you do that, I think that's basically about it. There isn't anything else. And then you can just go back to your nav page, and that's about it for this presentation. There's nothing else that I can say. In the next little presentation, I might give you some other stuff that we might be using. Yeah, till then, fly safe, be safe, and enjoy the videos. And thank you very much again for all the comments which are coming in. It's much appreciated. Happy landings, guys.